Hello and welcome to another edition of the How to Grow Your E-commerce Business podcast. As ever, I'm here with my partner in crime, Tom Horner. How are you, Tom?
I'm fine, Trevor. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. And so, Tom, what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, this week we're going to talk about international trade. And by international trade, we're talking, obviously, e-commerce.
Yeah, e-commerce, international trade is one of my favorite things, you'll be happy to hear.
Well, I know that, Trevor.
One of the things that I particularly love. So I think that, in my opinion, international trade is a great way for e-commerce businesses to grow, because you're reaching an entirely new audience. Well, hopefully, entirely new audience overseas. A lot of the time, I think when we're in places like the UK and the US, or particularly the UK, has one of the most developed e-commerce markets, and so it's one of the most competitive. Whereas in other countries, I think we imagine that everywhere is as competitive as the UK, but it just isn't, right? I did a walk in Spain for a month. I didn't see a single Amazon delivery van. E-commerce markets just aren't as competitive, which means that there's less competition. So there's more room for your products to get sales, and also prices may not be as competitive. So we've found with customers that we've got selling overseas that they do as much as 50% of their sales internationally. And I think that is in some ways. The UK is, whatever percentage of the EU in total the UK is, but it can't be more than about 20%. So I think that there's an opportunity for overseas sales to be the majority of a company's sales.
Yeah, and we do see that with some of our clients. Actually, Amazon US is in terms of total sales is 10 times Amazon UK. And whilst you'd always expect your home market to be your strongest market, that's not always the case, because, just given the relative volumes, there are disadvantages.
I was going to say, I think that just before you get onto those, I think that there's actually quite a strong argument, if you're a new e-commerce seller and launching a new product, to actually launch in the USA first. Because if you're it is 10 times the size. I know I actually looked at it and thought, wow, it really is 10 times the size. And if you got the opportunity, so you're getting stuff made in China, you could ship it into UK, you could ship it into Europe, or you could ship it into the US. And the US market is 10 times the size. So to a certain extent, why would, that is the place to start.
And also, also English speaking. So
also English speaking. And in the US, you have the opportunity to sell into Mexico and Canada as well. That said, there are some disadvantages. Tom, would you like to tell us about those?
Well, it is in general a little bit trickier. So, there's a number of things that make it more complicated and maybe a downright disadvantage. So, shipping is probably one of the biggest challenges. How do you actually get stuff there? And we'll talk about that in a bit. But generally, it's harder. You're less in control, and it means that you're going to see more in the way of customer service issues, especially along the lines of where's my stuff? Why hasn't my stuff turned up? Other challenges, translation is always a challenge. Obviously, translation is getting easier and easier with automated translation AI, which has stepped up a level with kind of ChatGPT and DeepL and things like that. But it still can't quite replicate a native speaker. Currency conversion, you can lose money on currency conversion. Compliance is one of those massive challenges. As a brand owner, you need to make sure that your products are, in accordance with all local rules. And there's a whole plethora of local rules, which might apply to, say, the recycling of things, but it might equally be, is a product legal to sell? And some categories are far worse than others. So things like healthcare products in particular, heavily regulated. There's a whole raft of challenges there. So make sure you check it out. One I particularly despise is VAT, local taxes. This has become much harder for UK businesses post-Brexit. If in doubt, talk to a tax expert. There are people who are happy to help you out with VAT, but there are challenges. And just to name one, it's if you sell products over £150 into the EU, there's a duty collection issue. There's ways around it, but it's a challenge. And I guess lastly, fragile items, if you're shipping stuff a long way, things that are fragile are more likely to break. So make sure your packaging is good and robust, but you will, again, see more in the way of customer service issues?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, compliance, I mean, just think about some of those things. Customer service, I mean, it is a lot easier with Google. Google Translate is excellent. And having used it for years, I can tell you that you get very few issues with it. Currency conversion, if you're selling on a website, the payment systems tend to slightly, I'm going to put this politely because I'm not a polite kind of person. They're generous to themselves.
That was polite.
Currency conversion. So they'll tend to do things like, PayPal, for example. If you're using PayPal, they will charge you an extra, like as much as 2% internationally, and then an extra fee, and then plus 2%. I mean, something like Shopify. Well, you can't remit. You can only remit your funds. You can only withdraw them in one currency, and what that means is, you might take a payment. You have a UK bank account or a US bank account. You can only withdraw in that currency you've got registered for Shopify, and they will give you they will be generous themselves with the currency conversion rate, and there's nothing you can do about that. I mean,
and in fact, I would say that having looked at their accounts, they make a very significant portion of their profits on currency conversion.
Oh yeah, and so I mean, because you think about, I mean, Shopify do. I mean, I did work it out, but it's like £1 billion a day or something goes through Shopify, and and if they can get an extra 0.1% on that because of international trade things, it's where they make their money. With compliance, I mean, I think it's with things like Amazon, it's very important to read their rules first, and I've become very unstuck on this. I mean, for example, I listed a baby walker in Canada, and they really don't like that. And they pulled it, and I listed it again, and they shut my account down. So you've actually got to bother. You've got to bother reading things, which I didn't at that time.
They simply won't let you sell on some platforms if you haven't given them the requisite information. So
yes, getting much hotter on that these days.
Also, in places like Germany, it's putting in an EPR number. This is related to the German packaging recycling scheme, and if you don't do it, they just won't let you do it. Now, none of these things are hard in themselves, but there's just a lot more of these things to do, and in your home market, you're likely to have all these things set up already. In these new markets, you won't. So you just got to find out what they are and do them. And Amazon will, in actually some ways, tell you what's important, because if you don't do it for Amazon, it won't let you sell.
Let's talk about different ways of shipping stuff internationally. So broadly speaking, let's say you're a company based in the UK. You've got a number of options. One is you could just ship the stuff from your home market. Now that has, you've got one warehouse, and you just manage to stock in there, and you just take the orders from the different channels and you ship them out. Now that has the advantage of you only have one warehouse, and you don't need to bother about stock levels in different places, which is great. And it's great if you're only doing a limited number of sales. But then you come across the problem that it takes a long time to ship. Stuff gets lost. It's expensive to ship, and so it doesn't really work from a customer point of view. But it is simple. More advanced way of doing it would be to do local fulfillment. So you can either you ship stuff to local fulfillment houses abroad. One way of doing that would be to use Amazon FBA or use Pan-European FBA. So you can aim for having a delivery experience which is as near to a domestic experience as possible. But a kind of a hybrid of this would be something like Amazon's remote FBA service, where the stuff is in your home country, but they make it available internationally. And for that, you don't, because it's all stayed in the UK, you don't trigger any VAT issues with storage. So I would say start it off shipping locally, see you get on with that, and then if that works, then consider doing the local fulfillment.
Yeah, I think it depends as well in terms of what are your strategic aspirations. So if you think that overseas should be a really important part of your business, you probably want to invest more time and money in doing it properly and go for a more advanced engine, which might mean that you have to have a third-party logistics warehouse, in Europe, wherever it might be. So, ask yourself some questions. Is international for you simply the icing on top of the cake, or is it a fundamentally important part of your business? That will probably help determine which route you take. But a simple approach can often be a good way to dip your toe in there and assess what is the demand for your products, because what your brand is probably well known in your local market. You might have no brand awareness at all in overseas markets, and you might want to test using simple ways first where your product is most accepted overseas.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the major sales channels. So I'd say that the big ones to look at are Amazon. It's in maybe as many as 20 countries these days. It's certainly in the UK, US, Canada, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Netherlands, Poland, Sweden, Turkey. The list goes on. Japan, and
UAE, Singapore.
Almost all of these you can sell them. They work pretty much the same in every country, and you can access them from the same account, which makes it really, really easy to manage. Because if you know how it works in the UK, I can tell you that it works almost exactly identically in every other country. The only countries you're going to have a problem with are, I think, Egypt and India. I think it's hard to get set up from the same account. You need a local company, which in some ways, actually, if you can then do that, it's actually there's much less competition in those countries. So Amazon, and Amazon also is a totally contained marketplace. So what that means is that you can list your products and you can buy advertising, and you can you can drive traffic to your products within each market. So it's like a one-stop shop, and it's got a fulfillment service. eBay also strong internationally, obviously a much, much smaller market, but doesn't have that fulfillment piece. So it's not like a one-stop shop. You need to do your own fulfillment with eBay. Google Shopping. So if you've got your own website, the best way of driving traffic to that was via Google Shopping. And you could set up for that you would need your own website, and you can localize it using something like Shopify Markets, which is Shopify's native localization service. Anyway, we'll talk about Google Shopping in a minute. And finally, I'd say they're the three biggest ways of getting international sales. After that, you're into kind of local markets, and the local markets, there's a bit of a hodgepodge. There are some big ones. In France, there's Cdiscount. In the Netherlands, there's Bol. In the US, there's Walmart. They're ones that are easy to sell on. What have I missed out, Tom?
Easy-ish. I mean, Bol requires you to have an EU company.
Used to be easy. There's,
did you say Allegro?
I didn't say Allegro, but I should have done. Allegro is Poland.
Yeah. And there's obviously various ones in the Far East, and if that floats your boat, they have challenges, Tmall, Rakuten, that kind of thing. So there's a whole list of them out there. And what's going to work for you is probably going to depend on what categories your products sit in, and local markets. I mean, you just never know quite what local markets are going to accept. In a past life, I had a really good business selling products to put weight on into Nigeria. They liked, that they saw larger people as healthier and wealthier. So,
compact.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I mean, can't sell it for love nor money in the UK. So, it's about working out what suits your products. Whether
you can sell them, they're called ice cream tubs.
Well, there is that.
It's called Krispy Kreme donuts, and in fact, people buy them all the time. That's the problem.
Yes, they wanted a more what would you call it?
It's going into Cafe Nero and buying one of those really sugary coffees with spray cream on top, and then caramel and little donuts,
The spoonfuls of sugar,
marshmallows. So yes.
There we go.
Right. Let's talk about Google Shopping, Tom. Tell us about how you would generate sales from your Shopify website using Google Shopping internationally.
Okay, well, we've talked about Shopify in a previous podcast, and we talked about how it's pretty easy on Shopify to create specific markets covering whatever territories you want, and you can use some kind of automated translation to create your copy in those markets. So you can set up a an overseas website pretty easily. The challenge is always, and it's the same in the UK, the challenge is how do you drive traffic? And your number one lever is Google Ads. So the great thing about Google is you can set up country specific campaigns. So, you can, across Europe, set up a campaign in every country, set it targets. What you're going to need is obviously your asset groups. You can translate them yourself, or you can let Google do it. It's just the easiest and best way of driving through sales. Anything else to add on Google Shopping?
Well, I could say, look, so what you need is, so you set up your Google, you from start to finish, you'd set up a Shopify website, you get upload all your content, right? Then you install the app, which is Google Shopify Markets, and that would that will translate your content and create effectively a different view of the site for every market, and it will do the currency conversion. So that will get you, and you can take payments via ShopPay and PayPal, for example. So that gets you your translated, localized version of the site. Then what you do is you need an app to create local a feed, like a product feed for each market, because you probably don't want the same products in each market. You feed that into Google Merchant Center to create the feeds, which then go into Google Shopping or into Google Ads, and then from there you would create your Google Shopping campaigns, one for each country. Simples. That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
So just a word on translation. There's kind of two levels of translation. There's the kind of the Google Translate, which was market leading up to a year or two ago, and then you have another level, which is the ChatGPT, the DeepL, whatever you're going to use, but they come out of the large language models. You do get a better quality of translation out of those. So there's always debate. Do you have your website manually translated so it's as good as it can be, or do you have it automatically translated so that it's always up to date? We and our clients tend to move towards the automatic translation, and we tend to use a combination of Google Translate for the pages that don't matter that much, and a paid for DeepL, something like that solution for homepage, product listings, any other key pages you may have, just so people get the best possible translation out there.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, it depends how many products you've got. I mean, if you've got a small number of products, it's probably worth getting them done manually, because then you'll get something really good. But if you've got like a loads of products and you want them to be up to date, I mean, you're just going to be, what's the phrase we're looking at, herding cats or something like that. You'll always be behind. Like painting the fourth bridge. If you've got, hundreds or thousands of products, you're going to be, it's impossible to keep up with it. I mean, so you got to ask. I always think, what can you actually cope with? Just accept that you can only cope with something manual. I think it's surprisingly few issues with it, I'd say, really. But I mean, I don't know if your sales are really, if you've got major sales in each channel, you probably want to think about having an individual site for each one.
Yes.
The Google's, it's pretty good Shopify Market, but it's not brilliant. There are some issues with it. It's quite. I think I'm saying it's quite hard to have individual content for each country.
No, it's not. You can have, so you have to set up a market for every, and a market isn't a country. A market can be a group of countries. So, you could set up one for the French-speaking countries. You could call it, French-speaking countries. You can have France, Belgium, Luxembourg, wherever else speaks French. Can't think at the moment. But you can cluster markets like that, and each of them can have unique content. What you can't do on Shopify is have a URL in one country and no equivalent URL in any other country. So, but it's not the biggest issue. You can have unique content. It's got better at that. One thing I would say is, and this applies, we're going to come on to talk about Amazon in a moment, but don't expect sales to materialize overnight. They take a while to build. So Google and Amazon both reward successful products. So they want to show their customers the thing they're most likely to buy to keep the customers happy. And initially, that's not going to be you, because you've got no sales, you've got no track record, you've got no SEO. So you need to work at it. It's not going to happen overnight. Think about how you can drive sales. So, do plenty of price promotions when you're starting off overseas, because that makes people think they're getting a deal. Make sure that your website is as good as it possibly can be, because you've got everything stacked against you to start with. Give yourself every advantage you can. So make sure that you've localized things like free shipping or returns, the kind of things that maybe you don't think about too often in your website. It will take a while, but it's the classic kind of snowball effect, or the flywheel, that is something you need to start pushing out and pushing out and pushing out, and then after a bit, and this might be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be 3 months, but you start building up a head of momentum, and then it really takes off. So I would advise patience on these things, and don't expect overnight results. It tends not to happen, especially.
Yeah. I mean, also with Amazon, I mean, you are going to Amazon. It manages the products. The products are managed on a country by country basis. So if you've got the reviews will port over, you're still going to have to use advertising to get them going and build up that rate of sale.
Absolutely. We talk about Amazon properly.
Let's talk about Amazon. Okay, so Amazon works. I mean, if you've got a listing in one country, okay, first off, you have an account, and you have a combined EU account and a combined North America account. And what that means is, if you have if you're doing fulfill by merchant, it'll share the inventory across the different countries for products which have the same SKU. So if you sell one in France and you've got 5 in stock, and you sell one in France, it'll show 4 in each country. If you there's something called build international listings, which enables you to take kind of works.
I would say that.
Okay. It threatens to work. Like a lot of things on Amazon, it threatens to work without actually quite working. Like a lot of things, like their reporting. It would be nice if it showed you all the products or did everything properly.
Yeah.
In theory, it's a good idea if it worked, which it doesn't really. Anyway, you can ask it to translate products, and it kind of does.
It can be a starting point. I mean, to be honest, we used to use it, but we found so many issues with it these days that we just list products in countries from scratch, and then you're a bit more control doing stuff. They're going to be correct.
But you can manage it all from the same Amazon, from the same interface. I think you can get the price. I can't remember where the pricing's done. The pricing is.
There's a variety of ways you can do pricing. I mean, Amazon doesn't actually like it if you have wildly different prices in different countries, but you can set pricing rules to take your UK price and price it plus 5-10% or whatever it might be. So that's straightforward.
You can do so. Imagine if you're a UK seller, you can do something called remote FBA, which means that you offer your UK inventory in the EU, and that means that it will. But what it'll do is it'll add its extra. It'll convert the price and add €5 to it. So it's not very. So it's again, if you're looking just to get some additional sales and dip your toe in the water, you could do it like that. They will take. So because all your inventory is in the UK. They will worry about, you don't have to worry about the additional VAT registrations. So it's easier from that point of view, and they'll just remit, and then they'll remit the funds to your UK bank account, unless you use. But it's one good thing. Occasionally, Amazon does something which is actually helpful, and what it does actually enable you to remit funds into different currency accounts. So you can use something like Payoneer or World First, and if you've got a currency facility on those, you can transfer your different currencies into the different currency accounts and save quite a lot of money doing it that way.
Yeah, so just a picky point, but if you're doing remote fulfillment by FBA, you're technically making a sale in your local market. You're selling it to Amazon in your local market. So from a VAT transaction point of view, let's say your home market's the UK, you're making a UK sale at your UK price. and then Amazon buy it from you and they ship it overseas. So there is no, on that particular example, that there is no currency translation to take place. Now, that is remote FBA. If you're going into Pan-EU FBA, you are making the sale in each individual market, and then the whole VAT and currency translation comes into effect there. And
if you're doing FBM, so if you're selling on Amazon.com, if you're selling on Amazon France and doing FBM, then there would be a currency translation.
There would be, and if you're selling Pan-EU FBA in Amazon France, there would be currency. But if you're doing remote FBA from, say, the UK, there wouldn't be.
Yes. Okay, I'll give you that. The what else we can say about? Okay, so So that's the remote FBA option. You can use Pan-European FBA, which is where you ship the stuff into European. You ship it. Pan-European FBA enables you to have a single pool of inventory in the EU and ship prime eligible throughout the whole EU. And this is where I'm going to get slightly started. Under certain conditions, I think you need to have a certain number of VAT registrations, and you need to have a listing live in France, Italy, Germany, and Spain. You need to have at least 2 VAT registrations, and you need to have a live listing in France, Italy, Germany, Spain. I think.
Correct. Yes. And so that the importance of the VAT registration is that to store stock in a country, and this applies to any warehouse, not just Amazon's warehouses. If you want to store stock in a country, you need to have a VAT registration there. So the more countries you can have a VAT registration across Europe in, then you benefit from local rates because they can store the stock in those countries, and that's where you get the maximum advantage of low cost and quick shipping.
As ever with Amazon, I think it's a great service.
It is very good.
I mean, they are annoyingly good.
They are very good at these kind of things. I mean, they are frustrating in many ways to work with, but their logistics are phenomenal. Really are.
Well, I mean, I think that the amazing thing about it is you can just do. I mean, with FBA, I think you can choose. I mean, if you were to get a warehouse in the EU somewhere, they're going to make you sign up for a contract. They're going to make you get a certain amount of space. They're going to charge you for everything you want, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Amazon FBA, you can store one product in one warehouse for 1 month, and that's all you'll get charged for. And they're just a single fee, so they'll charge you the storage, and the pick, pack, and dispatch will just be a single pick, pack, and dispatch fee, and it'll include the shipping and the packaging materials, and it'll probably be cheaper than you could do it yourself.
Yeah, their pick, pack, and dispatch, all of those costs are cheaper than your dispatch costs. So.
Extraordinary. It is. Definitely in the UK. I mean, it's a lot more expensive in the EU. I don't know if that's shipping.
Country by country. I think Germany's very cheap for FBA, and France is reasonable, but some countries like the Nordics are quite expensive. So
yeah, certainly the prices vary quite a lot. So
so
I think as a place to start, I mean, Amazon I think is a great place to start trading internationally.
Well, there's also an even more basic way of selling overseas on Amazon. So again, let's say your home market's the UK. Make sure you've turned on, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but essentially it's called Sell Globally, I think. So one of the settings, and then people coming onto amazon.co.uk from anywhere in the world, you can ship to them. So that's a form of international shipping, and it'll add 5 to 10% of your to your sales.
Yeah.
So it's an absolute, you don't have to do anything other than click the switch.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same also with like a website or with eBay. You've got the option of on a website you can set up. You could just have a UK website effectively, but just add international shipping options.
Yeah.
Which is and similarly on eBay, actually, you could just have international shipping options on your single UK listing, or you can just create listing in every country. So on Amazon, you just list in the UK but enable international shipping, or you could list separately on Amazon France, Amazon Germany, etc. Which I can tell you will sell an awful lot more internationally if you do that, but it's a lot harder. People, you have to start. Well, people, if someone goes onto the UK website and buys something which has got a UK plug in it, I think that's their problem, right? Whereas if you take the same product and you list it on Amazon France, then people, I think, legitimately can expect that that's got a French plug on it.
Yeah.
Been there, seen them done that.
And that's not something we really talked about. Just make sure that your products are suitable for overseas countries. Are the manuals translated? You know, would someone in France think that this is a product aimed at the French. And if the answer is no, then have a think about whether you're doing this right or not. Because what will happen is you'll get a stream of negative reviews, and it just won't go anywhere. So
a big problem. I would say, okay, so the manuals aren't such a problem. I tell you what isn't. Things which are, if you're selling a toy which speaks in English, that's a problem.
Yeah.
If you're selling something with the wrong plug, that's a problem. What else causes issues? Well, I mean, the languages things are written in. The manuals, it's a fair comment, but I have to say that is not something which I really ever came across as an issue.
It depends what you're selling. So, I mean, in the past, when you're selling toys, not so important, but if you're selling technical, and we've seen this with one of our clients who sell water filters, then it's a more technical sale, and it needs to be.
People actually read manuals. I'm not sure anyone actually reads.
As a last resort.
I don't know.
One solution is to put your manuals, translations of your manuals on the website. So, if you only want to have one UK SKU with a UKIT with an English manual, by all means do that, but put the manual on your website so people can access it. And
I'm amazed that people still have manuals with their products, actually. I don't know. I'm sure that's going to end soon, because why do it's like, why do you need it? Because some great big thick manuals, you could just, no one reads it. And then you could just have a link on the product or something.
And increasingly clients are putting manuals live on their website, and then you can keep it permanently updated and make changes. So it's not a bad solution.
I'm just amazed when you buy like a packet of paracetamol, right? It's got an instruction leaflet.
And you always open the packet in the way that you have to take the leaflet out first. I'm never.
I just don't understand it. I mean, it's like the crap that you get in these boxes. I mean, it's just the rubbish that gets generated from these things that no one reads.
I happen to know that with any medicines, that the manual is entirely mandatory, and you get approval from the Medicines Authority for that specific leaflet that you're sending out. And if you make any changes, you have to get a new agreement.
There must be. I mean, the number of people who read these things must be 1 in 10,000.
I think it's higher than that, and not everyone's like you, who has the confidence just to open it and have a go.
It's just like beak them.
Yes. So I think people probably read them a lot more than you think.
Okay, fine.
And it's the kind of thing that if you're not offering a French option for a manual, whether it's in the packet or on your website, it's the kind of thing you'll get complaints about.
That's fun. Like, I did get a police round once. The one time. So there was selling some stuff in Denmark, and the Danish trading standards asked for they picked 2 products. They happened to pick the one product that no manual is available. They picked the 2 products for which no manuals were available, out of probably all of them. And they then reported it to police in the UK, and had the police turn up on my doorstep. I
mean, Denmark is not a big market, and actually it's quite expensive to ship to Denmark as well.
It's just it's all well and good. Yeah, guilty as charged. But I mean, really,
it's
really a particularly good use of anyone's time doing that. Anyway, okay, Tom, inspiration. What's inspired you recently? What have you been watching?
I'm not feeling full of inspiration at the moment. I've just eaten and drunk too much over Christmas, so I'm feeling overweight and under-exercised at the moment, and some inspiration.
What am I going to say I was inspired by? I've been watching all the Pixar movies again. I watched Ratatouille, and I watched Which Incredibles, and they are fantastic. Oh, and I watched the new Wallace and Gromit thing, and that was fantastic as well.
I haven't watched that, but The Incredibles is my favourite film of all time.
It is.
I maintain that for any given situation in life, there is an appropriate Incredibles quote for it.
It is.
And the kids have found that out to their cost.
It is glorious. Well, the new Wallace and Gromit thing was pretty. I mean, the quality of the animation is just so extraordinary, and it's just the craft of it is just amazing.
I used to live down the corner from them in Bristol. It's not a big studio. It's not a big.
Well, they're not very big things, are they?
I mean, I do love their stuff.
Right. Until the next time, Tom.
Right. Take care, Trevor. See you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.